Back in 2019, I made one of the most important decisions of my life, and since then, my life has only gotten better and better. And that one decision was that I was done settling. Done settling in my job, in my relationships, in my finances, in my physical health, so on and so forth. I was done being the woman who settled for less than not only what she deserved, but for less than what she wanted. So in today's episode of the No Bullshit Manifestation Show, we're going to be talking about how to stop settling so that you can finally live the life that you are not only worthy of, but also the life that you can't stop dreaming about. What's up, and welcome to the No Bullshit Manifestation Show, the podcast that demystifies all of the nonsense that surrounds manifestation and gives you the tools that you need to create your happiest, healthiest, and wealthiest life. I'm your host, Kat Kozad, manifestation expert and life coach, and I am so happy that you're here. Let's fucking do this thing. Ultimately, I believe there are 4 different reasons that people settle. And first, let's be honest, it's because they're lazy. Second, it's because they don't know how to attain what is available to them. Third is they are intimidated by the work that it will take to actually get what they want. And fourth is that they don't believe that they are worthy on some sort of level of the things that they desire. Back when I was settling in my life looked and felt like absolute shit to me, if I'm being completely honest. There was a few years from like 2014 to 2019 that I was completely unhappy with almost every single aspect of my life, but I continued to settle for it. I wanted love and connection, but I settled for men who would only booty call me or tell me they liked me better when I was drunk. I wanted money and success, but I settled for minimum wage and dead-end jobs that would only burn me out and leave me dependent. I wanted to feel healthy and fit inside of my physical body, but I settled for heavily processed foods and hardly ever exercising. I wanted to love myself, but I settled for breaking my promises to myself over and over again. I think y'all get the picture. I literally was settling in every single aspect of my life, even though I knew I wanted more. And the truth of the matter is that I was settling in every single aspect of my life, and I believe I settled for 2 different reasons. One, I was lazy, and it was easier to be lazy and play the victim to my reality than it was to pick up my big girl pants and do something about it. And the second reason is that subconsciously I didn't believe that I was worthy of living a life greater than the one that I already had. The number one limiting belief that I've had to work with and chip away at is this belief that I am inherently flawed and that there's always been something that is deeply wrong with me, and that is the reason that I am either not worthy or capable of having, being, and doing the things that I've wanted in my life. And this limiting belief made a massive, and again, if I'm being honest, genuinely harmful impact on my life for years. It was the leading cause behind the settling that I was doing, and ultimately the thing that led me to my rock bottom moment where I had absolutely no option but to start to finally address the limiting beliefs and harmful habits and behaviors that got me there in the first place. And now, I want you to know that if you're listening to this, you may already be at your rock bottom position. And if you are, thank you for being here. Thank you for putting your faith, your trust into me, into helping guide you out of the place that you're in right now. I don't know what your personal circumstances are, but I can tell you that I have been to my bottom as well, and I will do my damn well best to help you get out of the position that you're in right now. And if you're not at your rock bottom, I want to tell you that you do not have to allow yourself to get to your rock bottom before you start to heal, shift, and change the things that are leading you to a life of settling. Because ultimately, I believe there's only so much settling that we can do before our souls start to scream at us. There's only so much settling you can do before your soul, the reason that you incarnated into this human body in the first place, will start to cause a scene and create ruckus in your life to try and get you to do something about it. Because at the end of the day, you are quite literally an extension of the divine. your soul incarnated into your human body to live the human experience from your unique human perspective. And the point that I am getting at here is that you are quite literally the universe, God, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it, living the human experience. And that means that even though you may not feel like it, you are capable of and worthy of every single thing that you can imagine. You quite literally have infinite and limitless energy inside of you because you are an extension of source energy. And when you become disconnected from this truth, then the universe and the God within you is going to do everything it needs to do to wake you the fuck up to remember who you are. This is, in my opinion, why people hit their rock bottoms. Because if you are not actively taking the steps to be the version of yourself that you were born to be and create the life that you were meant to have, then the universe, the God within you, is going to take you on the path that is necessary to wake you up to your purpose, your potential, and why your soul incarnated into your human body in the first place. I know without a shadow of a doubt that this is exactly what God did for me back in 2019. God and the universe woke me up by allowing me to be cracked open by the shit, by the partying, by the drinking, by the settling, by the dead-end job, by the debt, by all of the things that I was experiencing in that time in my life. Cracked me open with all of those different things so that I could finally let the light in, finally let the light of my soul shine through. So I share all of this to say, settling is actually more serious than you may have originally thought it was. Settling is denying your soul of the experience that you were born to have and can lead you down a path that will never allow you to truly get to know or experience your true essence if you do not intentionally take control of the steering wheel of your life and start to drive in the direction of honoring your deepest and truest heart's desires. Like I said, settling is not as casual as you may have once thought it was. You may have thought that it's fine to settle in your life, but this is ultimately the truth of settling. So finally, with all of that being said, I'm going to share with you what I have found to be, I guess you could say, like the formula in my life of how I've overcome settling and have now stepped into a completely different energetic standard in my life. And we're going to break this down into 6 different steps so that you are able to take this bit by bit, piece by piece, break it down into actionable tasks so that you can finally stop settling. So first things first, and if you listen to the No Bullshit Manifestation Show, you're probably not going to be surprised by this first step because it's almost always the first step. But in order for anything to change, your first step is identifying what areas of your life you are settling in and why you are choosing to settle in those areas. So you want to get specific on what areas of your life you are settling in. And y'all have heard me say it before, like I said, and you will hear me say it multiple times again. I am very sure of it. You cannot change what you're not willing to recognize and what you do not recognize. Identifying and understanding where and why you are settling in your life will always come first because this is the valuable information that you need to actually start to make a difference in your life. And I want you to think about it this way. You wouldn't hear screeches and squeals and spooky sounds coming out of your car and then be like, oh no, there's something wrong with my car, but I'm not going to figure out what it is. I'm just going to take a random guess and then do nothing about it. No. You would identify the issue so that you could ensure that your car was safe to drive. You are the vehicle of your life. Identifying and understanding the underlying causes of where and why you are settling is so important because this is where you need to start to change something. So, for example, in my life, I used to settle for men that would treat me like shit. Why? Why did I do this? As I dove into understanding the areas of my life that I was settling and then why I settled for those things in the first place, I had to go back to my childhood because for all of us, Our subconscious minds are formed during childhood, during ages 0 to 7. So majority of the habits, behaviors, thoughts, narratives, so on and so forth that you have most likely stem from some sort of childhood experience. So for me, during childhood, I watched how toxic and turbulent my parents' relationship was at times. I watched the way that my dad would talk to my mom and the treatment that she would accept and settle for. And I also didn't receive the time and the attention that I desired from my dad a lot of the time as a kid because he was always working. And then when he wasn't working, he was doing what he wanted to and needed to do for himself to be able to then go out and provide for the family again. I settled for what I could get from him, which wasn't very much, but that was the standard that I then held all men to because that's the example that I was given. And as a disclaimer, this is something you'll hear me say on the podcast a lot again, I don't blame my dad for how I used to let men treat me. There is a very important thing to recognize within the healing work is that when you first start to identify these different things and where they come from in the first place, you may feel angry. You may feel resentful. You may feel like you want to blame this person or this experience for what it taught you and what has manifested as a byproduct of it. If that is what you need to feel and experience for some sort of period of time before you can move forward, that's fine. But ultimately, at the end of the day, this isn't about the blame game. This isn't about blaming somebody else and being like, oh, well, this is why I am doing this thing or feel this way or act within this behavior. It's because of him or it's because this happened. No, because then that leaves you powerless to the circumstance. Yes, did I have experiences with my dad and with other men growing up that led me to then allowing other men treat me like shit? Absolutely. But I don't blame my dad for that because ultimately, if I was to just blame my dad, then I would still be powerless to the situation. So recognize for yourself that if there's this part of you that wants to blame the person and be like, oh, well, fuck them, this is where I learned it from, and now I'm just going to hold on to this resentment or this low vibrational energy and do nothing about it, that's not the solution. That's still settling. We either accept or reject the things that we've seen, felt, or heard from our parents, primary caregivers, friends, teachers, society, media, whatnot growing up, but you have the choice to shift and change those things if they are no longer serving and supporting you. So, although this is what was my initial place of setting that standard, I no longer hold on to any sort of resentment or blame for my dad or for any of the things that I settled for in my life, because by doing that, I have the power to shift and change them. Which leads into the second point, which is making the decision that you are no longer willing to settle in this area of your life. And I know this may sound a little too simple, but the truth of the matter is that you likely will continue to settle or continue on with unsupportive patterns and habits from the past until you make the genuine decision and the genuine claim that you are done with it. This is what I like to call the drawing the line in the sand moment. The kind of moment where you look yourself dead in the eyes in the mirror and say, I am done. I'm so fucking done with this thing, with this area of my life that I am settling with. I am no longer willing to settle for this thing. If y'all know my story back in 2019 when I hit my rock bottom moment, there was this genuine draw the line in the sand moment where I woke up on the floor of my apartment after a night of partying, not remembering how I got there. And I, as I was laying on the floor, was like, what the fuck, Kat? Like, what the fuck? And I had this surge of energy, this surge of light that ran through my body that I just got up off the floor. I went and I looked over in the mirror in the bathroom and I said out loud to myself, Kat, you have the power to change your life. Why the fuck haven't you yet? That was my draw the line in the sand moment. This was my moment of saying, okay, I am no longer doing this. I am no longer settling. I am no longer showing up within the patterns, the habits, and the behaviors that I have that led me to this place. Something has to change. So again, it doesn't have to be as dramatic as mine. Sometimes I look back at my life and I'm like, that's a fucking movie. That didn't actually happen to me. And it's like, nope, yep, it did. That happened and doesn't have to happen again, because I've made the decision, and you can make the decision for yourself, that you are no longer willing to settle in any area of your life or in specific areas of your life. I suggest any area of your life, but if you want to start with one area and then build on the rest, that is also completely fine. But once you have recognized and made the decision that you are no longer available to settle in this area of your life, you've made that genuine claim for yourself, then steps 3 and steps 4 are intertwined. So step 3 is you want to start to heal the habit or behavior that has led you to settling. And 4th step is set a new standard of what you're available for. Now that you've recognized what areas of your life that you're settling in, and you've made the decision that you are no longer available to do that, it's time to start to heal the habits, behaviors, and narrative that led you there in the first place, as well as set that new standard of what you're available for. And the reason that I put these two, like, quote unquote steps side by side is because oftentimes there is this very harmful and unhelpful narrative in the world of manifestation and personal development that you need to, quote unquote, do all of the healing work that you can do before you can start to attract in and manifest or create the life that you want. And that's a bunch of bullshit. You can do both of these things simultaneously, and I honestly highly suggest that you do both of these things simultaneously, because oftentimes you'll actually need to start to set the new standard and do the new thing for yourself before you can even start to do the healing work. So see this as your opportunity to show up and do both. Set that new standard of what you are available for, because ultimately what needs to be healed will naturally present itself to you when you throw yourself into the habit and into the behavior of starting to align yourself with that new standard. So, for example, again, within relationships with men, for me, the kind of treatment that I used to settle for, I decided that I was no longer available for. So I cut off all the men in my life that were treating me for less than my worth and set the new standard that I was only available for men that would treat me with love, kindness, care, compassion, so on and so forth. And naturally, as I set this new standard for myself, the old habits and the old behaviors of wanting to compromise on my worth to receive some sort of love, some sort of attention would pop up, and it would give me this clear sign of what was needing to be healed. If I was to try and figure out what needed to be healed first, if I was to sit around and wait in the old habits and behaviors before making the decision to set that new standard because I wanted to, quote unquote, heal or get it all done and out of the way with before I could be available for that new standard, then I never would have broken that habit. I didn't need to sit around and do all of the healing work before setting that standard. So again, for you, if you think that you need to heal before you can show up in what you are choosing for yourself, that new standard that you are setting for yourself, then that is not inherently true. And in my opinion, that is not an effective way to go about it. Genuinely, when it comes to doing any sort of healing work in the world of manifestation or in the world of personal development, waiting around to do the healing work and diving in and doing all of the healing work that you can do before you believe you are capable of manifesting what you want or setting the standards that you desire for your life is how you get stuck in this loop of always doing the healing work and never experiencing what you want. Start to set the standard for what it is that you want, show up for that new standard, and what needs to be healed will make itself known to you. So, with those 2 steps, your 5th step is then saying no to anything that is not up to par with the new standard that you set for yourself. And again, this may sound simple, but this is what will lead you back to settling if you are not actively maintaining this new boundary and this new standard that you've set for yourself. Say no to anything that is not up to par with the new standards that you set for yourself. And again, I'm going to use this example of a relationship to help paint the picture for y'all. So there have been many, many lovely men that I have met that have checked almost all of the boxes that I have for somebody that I'd want to potentially be with. But if a man is missing the mark on a standard that I have for them and for the kind of relationship that I'm available for, then I am not willing to be with them. I am not willing to compromise, even though there are so many things out there that say that you should lower your standards, or that you should learn to compromise, or that you should learn to be okay with certain things within somebody. No, absolutely not. I am not willing to settle in any sort of aspect, standard that I have for the kind of relationship that I am calling into my life. That can be true in any relationship, because essentially anything that we interact with is something that we have a relationship with. So whether that be your finances, your job, your relationship with your parents, your relationship with yourself, your environment that you spend time in, whatever it may be, you are in a relationship with those things. And if the standard of it is not up to par, do not say yes to it. Say no to anything that is not up to par with the new standards that you have set for yourself. Saying no is an act of self-love. Every single time you say no to something that is not 100% for you, you're building trust and value within yourself, which only then elevates your vibration and therefore helps you manifest more of the things that you want into your life. Keep your standards high. It may not make sense while you're in it. It may not make sense to the world that is constantly telling us to lower those standards. But when you receive the thing that fully aligns with what you have been setting the standard for, it's going to make sense. So keep those standards high. Genuinely say no if it's not 100%. Because although you may want to compromise on it because it would feel good to have that thing here and now, being able to be patient, being able to exercise that power of saying no and the faith inside of yourself that by saying no, something greater is on its way to you, is what then ultimately helps create this magnetic effect inside of you to only the things that you want. It would feel nice to get that instant gratification from that thing, whether it be some sort of man that you are settling for, or some sort of person that you are settling for. I've been ripping on men. I'm not meaning to rip on men. I'm just giving that example because I date men. But whether it be a person or a job, a boss, a financial situation, the environment that you want to live in, the car you want to drive, the relationship you want to have with yourself, do not compromise on that, even if it would feel good to get instant gratification from something else. Instant gratification is the killer of your dreams. Instant gratification is the killer of long-lasting, sustainable success and growth and happiness in all aspects of your life. Refrain from instant gratification, because when you can, then you are aligning yourself with what you actually want. The long-term, lovely, juicy, incredible things that you desire versus those quick hits that you can get, but ultimately don't fill you up in the way that you want to be filled up. So say no to literally anything that does not meet up to the par of your new standard that you are setting for yourself. Then your sixth step from this is to continue to up your standards. Continue to up your standards. Once you've mastered this art of saying no to things that do not meet the mark in your life, the way you continue to elevate and expand in your life is by continuing to up your standards. This is something that you'll hear me talk about a lot when it comes to manifestation with the ladder of believability. So when you are moving out of the place of settling in all aspects of your life into the place where you are no longer settling, there's going to be some pegs along the way. You're going to start to up your standard a little bit from what it was before. And then once you hit that standard, you're going to realize there's so much more available to you and that you can continue to climb this ladder. Again, the example of dating for me with different men, when I was settling for men that treated me like absolute shit and only used me as a booty call, then the next standard of man was a little bit higher than there. But then once I realized that that was not the standard that I wanted, then I continued to up it. And then I up it and I up it and I up it. And the kind of men that I attract into my life now man, oh man, literally, these men are so high value, such high value men. And although there is not one that has completely met up to my standard yet, I have full faith and trust in the fact that because I continue to up my standard and I continue to have this faith and trust in the fact that by doing that, I'm going to receive exactly what is meant for me, I know there is an incredible one on the way for me. So again, for you, in any aspect of your life, this is the kind of thing that you can do. You can continue to up your standards. You can continue to climb that ladder of believability, continue to climb that ladder of what you're available for. And that's how you continue to expand beyond where you're at right now, move completely out of the space of settling to having very high standards for yourself and for your life. And one thing I want to note with this is, when you are raising your standards, you also have to raise the standard for yourself. It's not just expecting the world to form to and mold to you because you are deciding and claiming these things for yourself. You must also raise your standard for yourself in order to be a vibrational match for those things. One of the things, and this is something I said very lightly at the beginning of this podcast episode, is that there is this like energy of laziness and complacency that has been like idolized in the world of manifestation and in the world of like magnetism and getting what you want. I think that that's, I mean, for lack of better words, lazy. Like, that's lazy to not have to hold yourself to the same standard that you are holding other things to. Because ultimately, when it comes to manifestation, it all starts from you, my friend. It all starts from you. So if you are pointing the finger externally at these other things and saying, I'm raising the standard for this, you first have to turn that finger back around and say, I'm actually raising the standard within myself. I also must raise the par, raise the standards that I am choosing to meet up to. I am raising my value, because by raising your value, you naturally shift and change the things that you are attracting back into your life in the external. So this isn't just about pointing the finger externally and being like, hey, I'm setting the standard for this within a relationship, or I'm setting this standard within this with my finances or my job or my career or my business. No. Point that finger at yourself if you are not meeting up to that par internally in the way that you show up in your belief system, in your actions, your behaviors, the way that you treat yourself, the way that you are in relationships, the way that you nourish your body, your mind, your spirit, then you cannot expect to be the vibrational match for it. You are the center point of your manifestation. So up your standards of yourself and the value that you are choosing to put out into the world and give to yourself. And that's how you become magnetic to those manifestations. Which then finally, your seventh step of this is to find a support system that keeps you accountable to the standards that you've set for yourself. Because it's easy to let yourself slip or devalue the standards that you have set for yourself and for your life when you're feeling sad or scared or lonely or lost or whatever it may be. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that within my life, the reminders and the support that I have from my community, if I didn't have that, I would have settled at a few different points throughout my manifestation journey. But finding a community that sees me and believes in me, and you finding a community of people who see you and believe in you, these are the kind of people that will hold you to your standard when you don't feel like you want to. These are the kinds of people that will hold you to your standard when you are slipping on it. And if you need that kind of person in your life, I will be that for you. Come follow me on Instagram, send me a message. I would love to connect with you, and I will hold you accountable to the standards that you are creating for yourself and for your life, because you deserve it. You deserve to live the life that you incarnated into this human body to live. And the only way that you can have that life is if you choose to stop settling. So there you have it. This is how I've stopped settling in my life. This is how I highly suggest you start to put together these pieces to stop settling in your life. And just as a quick recap on all of these different things, first thing is that you're going to get specific on what areas of your life that you're settling in and why you are settling. Second step, you're going to make the decision that you're no longer willing to settle in these areas of your life. Third and fourth are together, which is starting to heal the habit or behavior that has led you to settling, as well as setting the new standard of what you're available for. Fifth is saying no to anything that is not up to par with this standard. 6 is continuing to elevate your standards. And 7 is finding a support system that will keep you accountable to the standards that you have set for yourself. So that is what I have for you on today's episode of the No Bullshit Manifestation Show. I hope that it helped you. I hope that it served you well. And like I said, hang out with me on Instagram. You can find the link down below in the show notes to find me on Instagram. And I am sending you all of my love. Hey, real quick before you go, I have something for you. If you are loving the No Bullshit Manifestation Show and you're always wanting to expand and calibrate your nervous system for greater levels of wealth, then I've created the perfect nervous system expansion meditation for you. This meditation will take you through the process that I use to start to calling greater levels of wealth into my life and calibrate your nervous system for more money moving forward. All you have to do to claim this meditation is leave a review for the No Bullshit Manifestation Show on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify. Take a screenshot of your review and send it to me via email, which is hello@katkozad.com. Once I get your email with the screenshot of the review, I will send you the link to claim your nervous system expansion meditation for money manifestation. You can also find these instructions down below in the show notes. But with that, that's all that I have for you, and I am sending you my love. I'll chat with you on the next podcast.